We are live.
Live.
Hello. Yeah.
It's weird. Bobby switched when we were in the room behind the scenes. Bobby was down here.
Oh, you guys switched too. So Joel was on the bottom, now it's on top.
It's very confusing. Very confusing.
I think they went by weight. I'm the heaviest, so
They went by weight?
Yeah, I think that's what
gravity.
Yeah, good. Yeah. We got Vermont, we got SoCal, we got Chicago, North Carolina, New York, Toronto.
Yes.
No sound or video for me here. Do you guys hear us? Let us know in the comments. Not hearing anything either is what some people are saying. Let us know. We're monitoring the comments right now. You should be able to hear us. Texas, Houston. We got people.
How many Canadians you got here?
I got loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear. All right, cool. People are pouring in.
Woo! They're pumping me up.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Let's see. Yes, we are absolutely looking forward to the discussion. We've had people register all around the world, guys. That is, I think that is foundational to the topic that we're going to talk about tonight, right?
Yes, absolutely.
We are able, as just a group of 4 individuals here, able to bring together a group of people from all around the world, just like that, right? And build community, and it's really incredible. So we're going to share. Angie, you should be hearing sound. Hopefully everyone is hearing sound. Some people are saying they're not. Just make sure as you're coming in to say, yes, I hear you loud and clear. You see us loud and clear.
No power from Connecticut.
No power.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. We got some people from Serbia coming in. We got Georgia, Tennessee, Phoenix.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Some of my Florida friends I see.
We got Florida. I'm from Ohio, so Ohio people say Florida. That's what they say. They say with an A-L, fla.
Most of us are transplants from New York, so we say Florida.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Florida. Yeah, you got to say it. But I say Florida. That's right. In Italian. In Florida. Yeah, exactly. Tejas in casa. That's I hope you guys are all. I hope you're also doing well, staying safe out there. I know things are super crazy, and we're wishing you all the very best with you and your families, staying safe. We're going to get started in just a minute here. We'll do some intros, and then we're going to get into the meat of it, everybody. And we want to keep this thing super interactive. So please leave some comments. Let us know what you're thinking, what questions you have. We're going to talk about 3 different topics. We're going to be talking about myths of personal branding. We're going to be talking about truths of personal branding that we've learned on our journeys. And we're also going to be talking about tactics that you can deploy. So let's do this. While people are still coming in, let's do some intros around the virtual room here. I'm going to start with Kristen and go to Bobby and Joel.
Sounds good. So I'm Kristin Gallucci. Right now I'm Director of Marketing at Signorama, and I'm a brand strategist, modern marketer, I like to say, and been spending a lot of time focused on personal branding, helping entrepreneurs, helping companies, my own company. And I was named a LinkedIn top voice in 2018. So that was awesome. I did a Tedx last year, which I still, when I say it, I can't believe I actually say it out loud. Yeah, well, 5-timer. I can't. Bobby will talk about that.
Focus on you.
And I'm really excited to share some of our myths, truths, tactics to help all of you and any position you are in your career, in your life, to help you get to that next level, that next point that you want to be at. Find your why, find that passion, that purpose, and help you build your brand. So thrilled to be here.
Well said. Well said.
Awesome.
Bobby, give it to us.
Yes. Hi, my name is Bobby Umar. I am a professional speaker. I'm a 5-time Tedx speaker. I'm one of Inc. Magazine's top 100 leadership speakers. And I've been a speaker for 15 years, although things have changed drastically because of COVID. But I travel around the world, mostly speaking about personal branding, networking, authentic connection, visual influence, thought leadership, things like that. And I'm also the founder of DYPB, Discovery Personal Brand, which is actually a company dedicated to personal branding expertise and leveraging that through trainings, coaching, things like that, online programs and tools. And so, I'm a big, huge advocate of personal branding. I've been talking about it since 2008. I remember when I first brought it up, and they're like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting," and it's still the hottest topic. It's the hottest. It's a hotter topic even now during COVID because everyone's thinking about realignment, repositioning, pivoting. They're thinking about all these different things on their brand, building their online presence. And speaking of that, I'm also really big with the online presence piece. I love to help people with their own online presence, their own content. I've built up a bit of a social media following, over 500,000 followers mostly across Twitter and LinkedIn, but for the most part, yeah, it's a very large following, which is a lot of fun. It makes it very engaging, and lately I've been really getting into doing more coaching, consulting because there's no speaking, so that's what I'm doing a lot now, and doing lots of webinars too, and then sharing lots of value. So I'm delighted and honored to be here. I know these three people. I've seen what they've done. They've got fantastic brands, and I'm just thrilled to be here.
Awesome, Bobby. Thanks, man. Joel, you're up, man.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Joel Hansen coming in here from Vancouver. Haven't seen any Vancouver mentions in the comments, so a little hurt if the people are out there. My main role is a business development manager with the Skidmore Group, private equity firm here in the Vancouver area. And then I am also a marketing advisor on digital marketing topics around LinkedIn. And then I am also just a recent TEDx speaker, kind of speaking on reframing qualifications and kind of the things I went through as a student and the barriers I thought I had to overcome before kind of entering the workplace. And so had the opportunity to be a LinkedIn campus editor while I was finishing my undergraduate degree, and just really fell in love with the platform and really the community that this place is, to build relationships and kind of share stories. So excited to be here with everyone. Honored to be alongside these three amazing folks and looking forward to the questions.
That's awesome.
I see some Canadians popped in.
I know we got somebody from Winnipeg. Yeah, we got some. Yeah,
Some
that's
peggers.
awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'll give you a quick intro on me. Let's see. I'm hearing some echo. Do you guys get echo?
Yeah,
I do.
I wonder why. Can you guys do this? Maybe can you all mute real quick?
Mute for now.
If that goes away. And hello. Okay, so it's clean. So maybe what we'll do, just make sure you hit the little icon and it's blue when you're ready to talk. Okay. So a little bit about me. I just recently founded an organization called Project 1B, and I'm really passionate about. It's we're on a mission to help 1 billion people around the world change the way they think about the word happiness, and so essentially that they can chase a new word, meaning. We really want to focus on empowering people to chase the word meaning, to find a sense of meaning in their lives. And so it's a big passion project for me. It's been something that's been in the works for a long time. I'm really excited to share it. LinkedIn Top Voice. Also last year, super excited about that. I'm not a TEDx speaker. Okay. I am in the greatness of 3 TEDx speakers. I'm not a TEDx speaker. I'd love to do one day. Yeah, I've done, day job is working for Amazon. I'm a senior product manager, doing some fun things at work there. And that's it. So here's how this is going to go, guys. We're going to start off with some of the myths around personal branding. This is a really popular topic because there's a lot of individuals in the student world that are even mid-year, mid-career professionals that look at personal branding a certain way. And we've been in that game for a while, and we want to really try to demystify it for you. Okay, so as things kind of come up in your heads as we're talking about things, feel free to put a question in the comments. I'm going to be monitoring, and then I'm going to be posting some questions that we'd love to focus on and steer the conversation. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with Kristen and ask, what do you think like the number one myth is out there when it comes to personal branding?
I think there's so many, but probably the number one is imposter syndrome. So believing that you can't do it, that you don't have value, that your voice doesn't have meaning or a purpose that you should share. So, which is completely false, because everyone has a story, everyone has a voice, and everyone has their unique perspective. So I kind of look at it as, for me, when I'm even just creating content, a blog, anything, I say, what if there's just one person on the other side who I can reach, who I can share, who I can help, who I can empower in any way? And so that's all that matters to me, is one person. It's not the numbers, it's not the following.
Yeah.
It's how can I impact and help in that way, just one person. And I think imposter syndrome was big for me. It still is. Even just saying the word, I've done Tedx, is hard for me. So it creeps up all the time, and I have to push it down. But it's something I continue to struggle with. It's, am I enough? Am I my career? It's all of those things that I think everyone deals with at some point in their life. And it can prevent you from just stepping into who you are and sharing and having a voice and creating a personal brand at a very basic level.
Yeah. Let me do this. I'm going to shift over to Joel real quick and ask Joel a question from the student angle here, because yes, a lot of students do feel like that imposter type syndrome, right? Why do I create content? Why should anybody care about me? Like, what would you say? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that I think I still, to some degree, deal with as a result of being a recent graduate, you could say. I think the biggest mindset shift for me was understanding that it's not always about providing your own thought leadership, but just about showing up and being a part of the conversation and the dialogue. Something I did when I was younger that I think people were inspired to follow was really just interviewing and giving the spotlight to other leaders that I was meeting up with or hearing their ideas. And it totally changed the tone from, Joel's not the expert, he's just a business student, but Joel's meetings and Joel's, people that he's hearing from, why can't I be someone that passes on the knowledge and wisdom that others have taught me? And it really became this massive kind of perspective change for using your brand or using your marketing platform as a way to teach others what you're learning versus positioning yourself as this guru or expert when I just knew I wasn't that expert. And so that's a major shift I think students need to have, is that they can share stories, they can share advice or leadership lessons that they've learned. And it's just about showing up and being part of the conversation.
Yeah. It's how I found Joel. I mean, honestly, was because you were sharing content of some really high level, authors and CEOs. And I remember reading that content years ago when you started and sharing that. And that's what caught me on to, Joel's, he's got this. He's sharing some really interesting stuff. And it made me intrigued with you. So that's the interesting part of it, is while I'm reading about who you're sharing about, it made me interested in you because you took it and shared that expertise. And so you saw something in that content, and it made me look to your profile and think, oh, all right, somebody I need to talk to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I agree. Because that's when I first met you, I noticed you were doing all these interviews with people that were top thought leaders, right? You're piggybacking your brand off of somebody else's brand, and you're just sharing what you're learning.
Yeah. And the best part was, it was just, it was an easy way to build a relationship, when you're asking someone to share what they've learned versus, hey, listen to me, I know what I'm doing. You're showing up to say, do you want to partner? Do you want to collaborate? And it totally changes the tone of how I think you can build a community.
I love that. I love that. And so I want to switch to Bobby here real quick, because Bobby, everything that you've been doing is all about story. So I really want to dive into the concept of sharing your story. Some people are a little bit afraid to share their story online, right? Because LinkedIn is often looked at as the place for a resume. So I'd love to understand your perspective on sharing story, you know?
Sure. I was planning my myths, but let's do this.
Yeah.
I like how you're moving around.
I'm just going around.
I like it. I like the groove.
Yeah.
So, I mean, story, again, ultimately, your brand is going to be about creating connection with people as well. And if you have a strong brand, you create connection, create conversations. Now, storytelling is the best way, and the data and the science proves this, to create compelling connection with people. It also makes you memorable, which is also, a thought leadership brand is about being memorable as well. So when you tell stories, you tell people who you are. Am I out?
Lost Bobby.
What
Bobby,
happened?
we lost you, buddy.
Sorry.
No problem. What you may want to do, Bobby, is worst case scenario, you can rejoin and it'll kind of refresh there.
Whoa.
There you go.
That was weird. And now we moved around.
I know. Now we moved around again.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. That was
no problem, man. This is webinar land over here.
Okay, so I was just saying, stories. Stories say more about you than what you're actually saying, because they talk about your beliefs, your culture, your values, your insights, everything you've been through. And so stories are the best way to create incredible content that resonates with people. And for example, when I talk about, and even on LinkedIn, I'm talking about my health challenges, with body image issues and binge eating. I'm talking about the challenge with marrying my wife who's white and I'm brown, and we had troubles culturally. And when you do that stuff, there's people out there that resonate with what you're talking about. And that's where you get really deep connection, because vulnerability, again, with the science and data that Brady Brown tells us, it is the best way to create that connection. So if you take a vulnerability plus a really powerful story, that is where you get incredible connection and traction, and people will know you more than just the brand of the speaker, brand of the author, brand of the marketing person. No, there's a brand of a human, and there's a human element that I think we all want our brands and our thought leadership brands to be.
Yeah, I love that, Bobby. I love that you touched on that, because that's what a lot of people are scared to share. But it is the story that creates the connection. That's what creates a connection. And, whether you're going for a career or you're going for thought leadership, you're going for your own company or something along those lines, right? Like Simon Sinek says it best. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Right? They buy why you do it. Why do you get up in the morning? So I'm going to do this because I want to give Bobby a chance to answer the question about myths. And I want to go back and leverage on that topic.
Yeah. Sure. So, I mean, the big myth that I always want to talk about is, I talk about the fact that personal branding takes work. Yeah. Just like building a resume takes work, just like networking takes work.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say personal branding is too much work, or it's too exhausting, or it can't be done, or if I start doing my personal brand, I will have to be on social media 20 hours a week and it's going to kill me. But that's not true. That's not true. I mean, there are people, you don't have to spend that much time on your brands. And now, obviously, the more time you spend, you obviously have a better chance to create something strong. But, you got to do what works for you. The most important thing for you is, I think Joel says, to just show up, first of all, right? And then secondly, have a bit of a strategic plan in terms of what kind of brand you want to put out there and do some of the work. But, ultimately, if you're committed to doing the work, the truth is, once you've done the deep dive work, which is the part that everyone avoids, because I define personal branding in three ways. You discover it, then you design it, then you deliver it. And most people are always designing their brand. They're thinking about, the strategy and the tactics and what I'm going to do. But they forget about the discovery piece. Dive into your values, your traits, your interests, your passions, your skills, everything about you. If you actually do that work, let's say it takes 20 to 30 hours of work. Once you have that clear, focused, targeted brand, then the rest of it's easy, because you can spend time, maybe only 2 hours a week, putting out content and engaging people and telling stories, and you still have a consistent brand that people get, because you did that upfront work in the beginning. So, it doesn't have to be exhausting. It can just be the way you want it to be.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that. And let me switch gears real quick, and I'm going to go to Kristen for this one. And there's a comment from the audience here. If everyone is building their brand, does that diminish you building your brand? Common myth.
Oh, yes. There's room for everyone. I mean, when we popped on here initially, before we went live, I said, wow, look how different we are.
Yeah.
We all, four of us, have such unique traits, values. We're all in complete different positions in our business and our lives. You know, like you said, recent grad, I'm mom with kids in a director of marketing position in tech, professional speaker. I mean, just so different. So with that, you each have a unique story. We each have something that's our differentiating factor.
Yeah.
And you don't have to analyze that to death. In sharing your story, you will find your people. You will bring them in naturally just by sharing your story and developing your personal brand. So there's room for everyone. I mean, that's how I see it.
What do you think about that, Joel? I mean, coming from like the student angle, right? Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I'd have to say there's a difference for sure in just taking those steps forward and ensuring that like progress is being made versus having that whole brand done in one day. Like it's a journey and it's steps forward.
Yeah,
and as long as you're kind of approaching the right direction, I think there's so many opportunities regardless of your story. And I think the other thing I'd note is that to flip that question on its head, the bottom line is, you know, not everyone is doing it. And so by doing it, by taking steps forward, you are separating yourself from the crowd.
Right.
In a globe of 8 billion people, you know, not everyone's listening to this webinar. Not everyone has a personal brand. And so by doing these steps, you are already ahead of the game. And I think as time goes on and technology increases, I think more and more people will understand the value it has. But by taking the steps, you know, whether it's today or tomorrow or you've been doing it for a year, I think you'll be that much more ahead of kind of the crowd and the professional world.
Yeah. I think also to what you're saying, Joel, I think people tend to use that as an excuse too. Another one of those myths is everyone's already talked about it. There's nothing left to talk about.
Yeah.
And that one gets in my head too. There's tons of expert marketers around the world. You know, what can I share that's different? But I think we're all examples of everyone has a unique story to tell and you have your own unique spin on it. So you can sit back and wait and let everyone else do it, or you can just start.
Yeah, and just starting is the key, because if you don't take ownership of your brand, then the brand is going to be what people think about you, and that's it. And you want to take ownership so you can actually navigate and manage that brand and move it forward and propel it in a direction that is going to serve you best for your career, for your business. So I think a lot of people need to just start, and progress, not perfection. Like just keep working on it. And I also advise people that you can post stuff and still work on your brand. You can do them both at the exact same time, because when you post stuff, people give you feedback, they give you comments. You take all the information, you put it back into the brand, discussion development, and you hone that as you move along.
Yeah. I love that. And one of the things, there's a couple comments in the audience here. Sandra says, sounds like being authentic is key to building your personal brand, which we all absolutely agree with. It is a story that builds the connection. And that's what we're all trying to, we're ultimately fiending for, right? We're personal connection. We're humans, right? So 100%. And I think that one thing that when people are trying to figure out what the strategy is, I know Albert asked this, and I want to dive into this a little bit too and shift gears, because from a strategic standpoint, people are really confused about what it takes to build a brand or how they can even start. And what I like to qualify this whole experience with is just starting where your energy is flowing. Okay. So if I sit down and I think, well, I have to write about project management because that's my job title, and I am instantly fatigued by that, you shouldn't be writing about that. Or you should be playing your cards in a way where that's just one small bucket of your content creation, Okay. Because it should always be, what am I sitting down and excited to write about? And if it's divergent from your career path, that's an interesting sign that you should be exploring and continuing to write about, because that's where you want your life to go. And you're actually trying to ultimately converge those two paths. So I'd love to hear all of your perspectives on this strategic side of building the brand, right? Like, what did you start with, and then where is your energy flowing? And then I'll start with Kristen. Sorry, I'm just like tossing it out. You guys are like, "Whoa, grenade!"
No, I'm all for it, and I'm getting a little feedback too. I just want to share. So
I'm gonna turn mine off.
I could not agree more. So I know on paper, and this is what I tell people, is they should create, their content for the week or build their plan for the month. I don't do that at all. It's, just specifically in terms of content creation, which I think is only one piece of personal branding. One piece of it is whatever I want to talk about that day. And, it started with me on LinkedIn. My first post was about women in leadership and women in business, which is completely relatable for me, but not a strategic play. It wasn't something I would have written on paper as what I would talk about as I build my personal brand. And so it goes back to that authenticity. I think whatever you feel passionate about, and it's just sharing. And so I can so relate to that. I'm not a planner. I just go with the energy. And what it happens to be what I read about that week, or something that interests me, or something that happened at work, or a conversation I had. And so, it's probably all over the place too.
And that's okay. And that's the beauty of it. Because I think the brand emerges over time. It is not the brand that you start with. The brand emerges over a period of time, and you find buckets of yourself, right, that are each part of your unique story. And the unique story is what separates the 5,000 burger joints around the country. Right. Everybody goes to a burger joint, right? They go to Shake Shack for a different reason than they go to Five Guys, but they both exist. And I think that's the key takeaway here, guys. So Bobby, what do you think about that, man? I don't know, Bobby.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Oh no. So, what do you think about, this whole idea of the tactic of personal branding? Oh, well, he disappeared. Oh, he left. He'll come back. All right, I'm going to go to Joel. Unless he's coming back. We'll go to Bobby.
I don't know why it does that. That's so crazy.
I know, it's really weird, man. I'm gonna rag on Webinar Jam for this. I don't know. We're having some technical problems. But yeah, so like, what do you think about like the strategic side of this? Like, as far as like the energy, what you post, what is your feeling about this? Like, do you have a content calendar? Do you get like super strategic about it?
Well, I'm a strategic person by nature, so
okay.
I think I'll naturally have a strategy for things. I certainly like to talk about the thing is, even before I was strategic about personal branding, everything that I did, the things that I talked about, the people that I hung out with, were all kind of define what my brand was. Perfect example, I used to work in aerospace engineering. I was a design engineer for Bombardier, okay? And I would design planes, and during lunch breaks, whatever, everyone would talk about the X-Wing 2000 and the new Rolls-Royce engine, blah. I would be talking about, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, and I would be talking about things that were more interesting to me. And right away, that should have been indicated. You know what? Maybe I don't really care about engineering. Maybe I shouldn't be in this. I went in there because I was good at math and physics, but in the end, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And so for me, that natural evolution, because I'd had 4 careers. And finally I said, I need to figure this out. And so what happened was, once I left my last corporate job, I was like, you know what? Maybe I need to have more of a plan. So I put a plan together. I kind of dove into my brand. It took me about 3 to 6 months to really figure it out. And then at the same time, I was talking to people. I was getting feedback. I was, posting things, no problem like that. And then once I found that brand and started pushing forward as a professional speaker, I realized the importance of having a strategy, because it's certainly good to kind of put stuff out there, but it's even better if you have a focused brand that gets you where you want to go even faster. Because nowadays, when I work with clients and they want to build a thought leadership brand, it can be done pretty quickly. It doesn't have to take 3-4 years. It can be done in a couple of months if you play it right. So, and how you position yourself. So for me now, I have I have a strategy in terms of how I put together a brand. I have my own signature methodology that I use. There's other ones out there too that people have as well. The general rule is, diving into self-awareness, knowing who you are, what you care about, and how people perceive you. And if once you know what that is, you can start to understand kind of what your brand is and where you want to take it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it ultimately starts with where your interests lie, and as you've seen here, right, each of us take a different approach, right? Kristen and I are kind of off the cuff, kind of like, I don't have anything planned for the week. Just kind of see what happens, right? Whereas Bobby's like very strategic. Both strategies work just fine to grow your brand. What about you, Joel?
I have a fly here. I would have to say my route would be, I think, grounded in the learning side of things. I like to have kind of an idea of what I'm looking forward to this month. But I do similar to the two mentioned here. Like I just kind of take things day by day, week by week. But the two things I like to ground my posts in are the learning and kind of what I'm chatting about that week or what's exciting to me. I think the learning takes off the pressure for it to be one-way focused for your audience. I think the learning means that you're genuinely curious and passionate about that topic, and so if that's something you're genuine about, my assumption is that the audience would share that, and it makes it a two-way conversation where you're responding to the comments, you're helping people because you actually care about the topic. And then the second one is just the relevance of the week or the day. Like I think that brings a humanness to the content that you're posting. I like to compare it to if I'm on Instagram and I get an ad and it's pouring rain and I have a Vancouver retail shop, with a sunny photo saying to come by and stop in. I know that it's fake. I know that it's planned. I know that it's not organic, and I'm not going to stop by. And I think LinkedIn's that same thing. If people know that you're not genuine in your sharing and you're not showing up as a human, people aren't going to want to, reach out, send a message, or have a conversation. And so those are two things I try to, approach my content by.
I love that, man. Thanks for sharing. So,
one thing I want to add though is that,
go ahead,
when it comes to, I'm strategic in terms of planning the brand and making sure I know what it is. Like, I have a why statement that I wake up to every day, and I don't plan my content. I'm in the shower. I think about my why, the people I serve, what their pain point is, and then I think about something I want to talk about. And
hashtag
then I go
shower thoughts.
Yeah, basically. And then I take my phone and I just do a quick recording and then I do it. And that's my plan. But because once you have a strong foundational brand and you know who your target audience is and know what my why statement is, it's very easy for me to just talk about anything, tell a story that's going to relate to and influence my brand. And the other thing is I do the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of my content is on that brand. The other 20% is whatever I want to talk about. Doesn't matter. I'll talk about binge eating. I'll talk about the election. I'll talk about cartoons. It doesn't matter. I just do that because it just keeps it more relevant and fresh.
Yeah. So Chip asks, after a few weeks, you start to feel you're only talking to yourself unless you get engagement. How do you stay the course? I would love to learn from each of you when you first started, how much engagement you actually got and how long it took to get any engagement whatsoever. I'm going to start with Joel on this one.
Yeah, great question. I think I scrolled down to my first post a couple months ago, and I think it was just one like, probably my friend in a business class. And it was a link to some leadership principle that I just had no clue about. And I was just kind of testing it out of curiosity. So if anyone wants to see that, I can screenshot and send it to them for inspiration. In terms of gaining feedback to make sure that you're not talking to yourself, a point I like to have is when you're making the post, if it resonates with a particular group or friends or colleagues that you've connected with, send it their way and just ask for feedback. Ask if it sparks any thoughts. Ask for permission if you've quoted them or kind of brought it up in the conversation. And really socialize the content before, during, or after you've shared it versus, you know, just posting and kind of like seeing what happens. And I think if you can't socialize it, that probably means that maybe, you know, you haven't really thought through the response of how the community would engage with the post. And so that's why I think it's a good lesson to kind of pre-vet the content before you post it. Is it something you could socialize? Is it something that would stir up some good conversation? So John, that's kind of a tip I use, and that's kind of how I started.
That's great. Yeah. What about Bobby?
You know, I was one of the first million users of LinkedIn back in the day, and you know, pretty soon I got to like 4,000 connections, and I basically posted like 4 or 5 times a day, using like something like Buffer or Hootsuite, and no engagement whatsoever. But then, in 2017, when Swish Goswami met me for coffee, he's like, Bobby, it's changed, man. You gotta start putting stuff on there. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So I started doing a daily tip, and I called it LinkedIn Daily Tip. You know, and I just started. It was a text post. I started doing this before the videos came up, and I just did one. Then I did another one, and by the time I got the 5th one, and it consistently at the exact same time every day, right? And then people started to notice, and that's what within 5 posts it started to take off, and people started to notice. And then, yeah, to Joel's point, to accelerate it, I started saying, listen, I sent a quick message to 10 friends. Hey, guys, I'm posting every day now, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. Can you check it out? And pretty soon, that got even more notice. And that's kind of when the magic happened. But, yeah, I think that I have a strategic approach to, you know, socializing the content as well. But consistency, and also coming up with, you know, getting feedback and make sure it's huge value add. Like, it's got to serve your audience. It's got to make sense because that vibe's got to attract that tribe, right? So, you know, getting feedback, I think, works really, really well.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Kristen?
I love that idea of socializing content. I don't think I've ever really done it, but I like it. I'm going to do it now. I think I had a little bit of an unfair advantage. Well, first of all, when like Bobby, you can actually look up your LinkedIn number. I don't know if everybody knows that, but you can figure out what number you were in terms of members on LinkedIn, which is kind of fun. So I was in the first million as well, which was, I don't even know when. But when I revisited in 2017, that's when they redid the feed. I started to share links, and I can remember getting a little bit of traction, but the unfair advantage is I got in the video beta right out the gate. And actually, because it was the time when Bobby was doing his daily tips and creating video, you were doing it every morning. So I really admire the time management skills that I don't have.
Not anymore. That was too much.
But it was every day. It was every day. I don't even know, 30-second or something quick.
Yeah, that's right.
And I watched content creators like Bobby creating video, Michaela, Alexis, Swish too. And at that point I was like, I have it. I need to use it, and I'd be crazy not to. So I started creating videos. Really, fears took the best of me. It was really hard for me to do in the beginning. And then it started to be a lot of fun. I don't know. There was just that moment where it switched. And so video content initially is what really helped to build engagement, because you are able, we all know that it's the closest thing you can get to an in-person connection is video. People get to see you speak, your intention, your tone, your delivery, all of that. And so I think that video really helped me build a connection with an audience quickly.
Can I share a data point?
Please do. And I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
I say it in all my talks and all my clients. A picture's worth 1,000 words, but according to Force's research, a 1-minute video is worth 1.8 million words. How's that for connection?
Yeah.
I actually stole that from you, Bobby, for a post. I remember actually messaging you and saying, "Can I borrow this stat?" And you were like, "Yeah, it's not mine." I remember.
Well, there's actually. So I thought you were going to actually deliver a different stat.
The 1%, 1%.
The 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
You want to deliver that?
You go ahead, do it.
So I don't know. I don't know it fully. So you may have to fill in the blanks here.
Okay.
But I think right now there's about 650 million users on LinkedIn. right? About roughly. And it's way less than 1% of people actually are even consuming or, posting content, sharing just in general. And then half of 1% of those people are actually creating. And then, you start looking at the stats, it's like, the estimate is like another half of that 1% is even doing it regularly. So imagine the opportunity that we have here at our fingertips. You talk about what you want, then LinkedIn is the world's largest, website for recruiters, search engine for recruiters, and all of a sudden, they are being attracted to your story and contacting you for opportunities that are perfectly tailored to you, right? So magic starts happening on this platform. And a lot of some people have said in the comments, like, well, why should I pick LinkedIn? It's like, you pick LinkedIn because it's the most untapped, undervalued source of creating a personal brand that you could possibly have. Facebook won't do it for you. YouTube won't do it for you. I know. I've been playing the YouTube game for 4 years. Much different strategy. Whereas LinkedIn, it's like, talk about whatever you want. Whatever ignites you. And that's the beauty of it.
And the thing is, if you're trying to build a professional brand for yourself, then LinkedIn is the way to go. I mean, if you want to build a thought leadership brand anywhere and build that influence, I mean, the 4 hottest things right now is, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and podcasts. But the question is, who's your audience? Where are they? Right. So if my audience were all 14-year-olds, maybe I'll be on TikTok. But
you're not on TikTok, bro?
I'm not. No, I'm not on TikTok. No, I'm too much. But for me, LinkedIn. But I tell you, LinkedIn, like everyone has to have a professional brand. So you need to all invest in LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's so true. And so, Lauren asked this question. I'd love to touch on this topic here. How do you feel that your content is relevant to others? Joel, what do you think about that?
I was just going to say, before I get to Lauren's question, I'm worried if there's 1,000 people on this video, that 1% could jump. So if you are listening, don't ruin the 1%, but we'll see what happens. The second really cool stat, I'm not sure if you've read, I think it was in the Hootsuite 2020 report. LinkedIn's evaluated about over 50% or just about 50%, of users on LinkedIn make over $75,000 per year. And so when you're having a message resonate with an audience like that, there's a lot more business value versus a message that goes and resonates with a Facebook or Twitter audience. And so I think that's another point to make, is that if you are, wanting to build financial independence, I think the stats support the network. In regards to Lauren's question, John, can you repeat it one more time?
Oh, hold on one second.
How do you make sure your content is relevant to others?
That's right. How do you make sure it's relevant to others?
Yeah, I think something a business leader told me was kind of listen to the whispers within your personal kind of family friend network, and then validate it on social media. So I mentioned that because I think your relevance should be marked by really kind of your friend, family, business community, and ensuring that it is of value to them. And so ask them, when you're going for coffee, when you're seeing people at events, virtual or physical, after all of this, ask, what their feedback is, and if it has been relevant or beneficial to them. And then, the important thing is don't get over, consumed by the social media presence. I think something I really try to hold myself accountable to is I have friends outside of LinkedIn and social media that I say, hey, like if I'm chatting about this too much, make sure you call me out. And I think that's a measure I like to have for that accountability, to ensure that the value you're learning on the platform has to exist outside of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So if a post doesn't do well, if you don't get the likes or comments, at the end of the day, your value isn't wrapped up in that. And I think that's kind of a relevance piece of, look for relevance, but don't look for virality metrics, and don't get lost in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you think about that, Kristen? How do you feel that content is, or do you even focus on that content relevancy to others, or are you just posting about what you want to post about?
I think your audience tells you if it's relevant to them, and that's how you build an audience. Again, I create for that one person. So if it's one person I can impact, then that's why I create content specifically. Speaking of what Joel was talking about, though, that's a big part of how I have built my personal brand, was creating it offline by doing LinkedIn local events at the time. So I did a ton of those locally, but that carried through onto social media. So I still very much believe in in-person connection and direct connection with people. I hope we get back to events. I miss them because I miss that part of it. But for me, social media was a support to that. It wasn't one or the other. So I think that's important.
And I love this question from Lauren, and that's why I wanted to focus on it, because it's not necessarily about relevancy to an audience. At first, you don't have an audience. You don't know who the audience is. It's just creating content on something that you want to talk about. Because what you're doing is then you're signaling to the community of people who believe that same thing are going to be attracted to your message, right? That's how you're gaining an audience. You're talking about what you love, and you're finding other people who love that same thing, and that's the audience, right? And another benefit of creating a brand is it's not about a follower or anybody else. It's literally about, if you take nothing else away from this event, just remember that it helps you become a better writer. It helps you become more articulate. It helps you become a better speaker, right? If you're on video, you're editing your videos and you're noticing when you're saying and like and your weird facial expressions, right? So you become better. And that's the point. If nobody follows you at all, then at least you became a better speaker and a better writer. And those are coveted things when it comes to finding an amazing job, right? So at least you have that.
Absolutely. Building community, not just an audience, a community.
Yeah.
And being social. I mean, at a very basic level, it's being social. So I think even going back to talking about creating content, you don't even need to create content. Be social. Find other people's posts, leave comments, reach out to them in DMs, find people that you connect with, like minds, people that you admire in certain career paths, or who are creating content in a way that you think is really interesting. I mean, it's called it social for a reason, right? So building your personal brand, I think, is rooted in that. It's that connection that you're making with other people.
And that creates conversations, which then lead to other things, right?
Yeah, those conversations lead to other posts, because it will spark a conversation in the comments, and you'll go, oh, I'd love to respond to that. And then my response oftentimes becomes a new post, because it brings something up, right? It's like perfect. It feeds the content creation, right? So I'd love to talk about this question Nicholas brought up, because this is very contentious in the world, right? Nicholas says, are you ever concerned about what your employer thinks of your content, right? Because LinkedIn is a different type of, Joel, I don't know if you could mute real quick. LinkedIn is a different type of platform. We are used to having an employer be part of our attachment, right? So I'd love to learn from Bobby, and I'll go around the room here on this one. Did you start doing content creation while you were employed at an organization? And if so, how did you navigate that?
Well, I mean, let me just say I wasn't, because I've been an entrepreneur since 2008, right? So, yeah. So what I would say to that is that, it doesn't matter whether it's an employer or it's your clients or it's your, suppliers or partners, right? They are all going to care to a certain extent. And, I have contractors that, they may be concerned about my brand. So, I take great responsibility to make sure I have a strong brand and the content aligns with things. But ultimately, you have to if you know your audience well, you know what your brand is, as long as you stick to those principles and stick to that brand, loyalty to yourself, the right people will stick with you, and the wrong people will eventually tune out. And if you have a company that wants to control you and doesn't want you to do that kind of stuff, then when you do your own personal brand discovery and align what your values are, you might find they're actually not aligned with that company. And maybe at some point you may want to exit that situation.
That's a solid point. What do you think about that, Joel? Are you concerned about what your employer thinks of your content? Do you ever get worried about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it was a benefit coming into the role, understanding digital marketing, branding, things like that. But something that was really important that I'd recommend is having a chat with your direct report, having a chat with your boss to say, hey, this is something that is of passion to me. I could foresee this being a future conversation that we have a conflict about. And I'm just wanting to openly, communicate, open up a line of communication here to see how can I, benefit the team and the company on using this. But then also, can we have some signals that we share if this is coming out of line? One thing I always tried to be aware of was ensuring that I wasn't, rubbing shoulders with competitors or messaging competitors or things like that. Make sure that if it's education and two-way dialogue focused about building community, that's just not a competitor conflict. And so, making sure I'm staying in line, I'm staying respectful, and ultimately just having those regular check-ins.
Yeah, that's a solid point. I think that there's a lot of different strategies you can deploy. You can say, these are my opinions in your post. You can clearly articulate that. You can also, if what you really want to talk about might be on the verge of being potentially controversial, we're living in some interesting times. There's a lot of heated opinions that people hold. And Joel, maybe could you guys, okay. A lot of heated opinions, and if you get into that situation, what you can do is you can try to disconnect your. You don't have to say that you work for a company on your LinkedIn profile, in which case there is no brand association. It is just you talking, right? So when somebody sees a post written by you, it doesn't say like Joel working at X company, employed by X company. It's just Joel, right? And if somebody wants to go to your profile and they see, oh, he also works for this organization. So you can do that as well. But I love Joel's thought process around this topic of, ask first, or look at the policy of the organization and see what it says, right? Is it black and white? Or is there a gray area in there that I have to tease out?
I have a couple stats I want to share real quick.
Yeah,
82% of customers trust a company when your senior management members are active on social media. I think that the conversation should be had. So if you are in an organization that hasn't thought about it, because I think many companies don't even think about it, or they're maybe just not more in the digital age with the business itself, and you need to have a presence online. From a marketing perspective, it's really important. And so if you don't talk to your employees about creating content, having a policy, whatever it is, they may be doing it anyway, and you might not like what you find. So I think embracing it is empowering the company and the business, and they support each other. And the other is 78% of hiring managers find the best candidates through referrals, which I think we all know. But I think it's just how important having a digital presence is for a company. It can be, it can boost the business. It can boost sales. I'm really lucky to be in a company that has embraced it. Like Joel, they found me. That was a part of it when they found me online. And that's the other thing is your employer is going to Google you. Your prospects are going to Google you. Everyone is going to Google you. So if you have not searched yourself out, what is out there? You want to know, take a look and see. You already have a brand. You have a personal brand that's out there. Whether it's what you want it to be or not is the question. How you're perceived is everything, right? Bobby, you said that already. Perception is everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think companies are going to start to come around to this idea that the value of the individual who has their personal brand can be a real asset, right, to the organization. And I think we live in a world now that's making that transition, and companies are still fearful of, like, how do we navigate social media policies and what have you, to protect ourselves. But the human population also recognizes that people's opinions are their own, and there is a diverse set of opinions that people have. So they don't necessarily represent the organization, in every case. So you can a company can leverage it or choose to not. But it's really fascinating where the industry is going. And so Lena asked this question here. I'm going to post it to the room. She says, what if you're not strong at generating content? Is this the only way to create a brand on LinkedIn?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not strong at generating content, or you're not strong at storytelling, or you're not strong at networking, you should work on building those things. Absolutely. So personal development is a huge part of growth for your brand. If you want to become a thought leader and you want to build a strong brand, you have to work on yourself. And that's a huge part of the personal brand process. Now, there are other ways to create a brand on LinkedIn besides generating content. I mean, but it is content and conversation and connection related, because you're commenting on people's posts, you're liking stuff, you're sending messages to people, you're participating in on online events or LinkedIn live streams or things like that, but you are engaging in some way, and that in itself is a form of content. You have to find a way to actually get better at engaging and commenting and creating.
Can't hear you, John.
You're muted, John.
All right, so I'm going to pause for just a second, and I'll go around the room some more. But what I'd love to say is, if there's any key takeaways that you took from this event, share it, right? This is a good experience for you to say, here's one key takeaway, just one thing that I got from tonight's event, and tag us in your post. And what we can do is we can then, as soon as we're tagged, and that's the beauty of tagging, as soon as we're tagged, then we see it, right? That's an immediate notification in our phone, right? Joel just liked your, Joel just, commented and liked your post, right? And shared your post. And then what we will do is comment on the power of LinkedIn. And what we'll do is we'll comment on your post, right? And that extends your reach into our network. It's a very algorithmic thing that all these social media platforms have, right? So it's the engagement happens, the exposure into different networks, the hashtags. So definitely encourage you to do that, and we'll show you some love on your post. Okay. All right. So, Kristen, what do you think about this? If you're not strong at generating content, is that the only way to build a brand on LinkedIn?
No, but I think the fact that you're here means that you have an interest, right? And so, as Bobby said, it is kind of a fundamental part is engaging and conversation. So maybe it's through direct messaging people that you resonate with and starting conversations if it's not creating content. When I first started on LinkedIn, I had a phone call with every single one of my connections. Every single one. I wrote back to them in messages. I said, thank you. I said, hello. And I scheduled phone calls. I was on phone calls every day. So if that is the way to build your brand, that might be it. Having a digital presence is important. I think it's a fundamental piece now of your personal brand. And like I said, you have a presence, whether you're controlling it in any way or not. I think it's important. And I think copywriting is also kind of a fundamental of all business. And so if you can hone that skill, and I think starting with a short post is one way to start to build those skills in writing.
Yeah, I totally agree, right? You can share content. There's Angie, I believe it was Angie who said that you could just share content, right? That's where you can start and just start engaging in the conversation.
Yeah, sometimes the best creation is curation, right? So you can curate content and share it, and it becomes content on its own.
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, just a simple post, I'll share it, and it's not something I ever could have planned or a strategy for getting engagement. I think it hit over 500,000 views. Was a post I wrote about removing the word just from my emails. And it's something that I've been struggling with over the last whatever months, that I go back and I edit my emails and I see, I just need this, or I just would like this, or just checking in. And I do it so much that I started to try to edit it out. So I shared that on LinkedIn.
I saw that post. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the highest amount of engagement I've ever had on a post on LinkedIn. Not part of a plan, just something I shared that maybe someone else might resonate with or relate to. It was a short post. It wasn't a novel. It wasn't some, you know what I mean? Some writing expertise, some novel. So I think you can start really small with just sharing what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I agree. It's such a great way to do it. And so I know we're rounding out at the hour here. And what I'd love to do, hold on one second, guys. But are you going to bed?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't want to leave.
Good night. I love you. Good night. I love you, buddy.
Let's do another hour.
You want to say hi? You want to say hi to people?
Hi. I'm gonna get my kids now. Come here. The cute factor. We need this.
The kid
cuteness.
factor. Kid factor.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Good night. I love you.
I have a bunny. I threw my kids out.
Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll try to, fire off. Depends on how much time you guys have. Maybe we'll try to, strategically answer just a handful of questions, just fire them off,
I like it.
and then we'll close with some tactical strategies. Okay. So like one thing that you think you can do right now from a posting perspective that'll help your reach or help your, your scenario to build a personal brand. Okay. So we'll close out with that, but let's scan through the comments, and thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate you. You have a bunny, Kratzky. I threw my kids out. Yes. Oh, that's what you said. Is that what you said? Oh my
That's
God.
my quote of the night.
Okay. I love that.
I hope that's not my quote of the night. No, I also want to thank everybody for some great questions. And I noticed what I love is other people in the comments answering other people's questions. That is community.
So here's a really good one. I love this one. Okay. I talk about this one all the time. Gaz asked this question. Thank you, Gaz. What is the correlation between content, brand, and landing a job, other than generating views from recruiters or companies? What is the correlation between your content, brand, and landing a job? So there's a few of us. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So a brand, when your brand is clear, then an employer will know exactly who you are and how you can help them. So that's number one. Number two, the content. If I'm looking for, I'll Google all employees and people I want to interview, and I see, and let's say I'm looking for someone who has expertise in artificial intelligence, and I go to your site on LinkedIn, and you've written 3 articles, you've done 10 videos, you have four other posts where you talk about artificial intelligence, and you do it with eloquence and articulation, you comment people's posts. That content sets you apart. That's being a thought leader. You can build thought leadership with your content to separate you from the other recruits that they're going after. So the brand makes it clear how you can help them, so they want to hire you, and then the content separates you from being a thought leader compared to the other possible recruits. You're muted, John.
Sorry, I do that because my kid's running around the background. Try to minimize the noise here. So what do you think about that, Joel? The correlation between the content, brand, and landing a job? Right? Do you think that the landing a job correlates to the content creation?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think definitely agree with what Bobby's saying. I would just add a sub point to say building content builds your visibility, and visibility and relationships in the industry, I think ultimately is what introduces you to job opportunities. And referrals and employers can only come together and reach out when they know who you are and what you stand for, and that is most easily accomplished, I believe, by being active online. You just can't be at as many events and coffee meetings as you can by posting one idea or story on LinkedIn. It just the math isn't there. And I think if you are concerned about ensuring that you're ready for your next opportunity, I think it just makes sense to start participating and sharing online so that your visibility and your opportunities can come together.
Yeah, so I want you to think about this from an algorithmic standpoint, and Jor asked this, or Joy touched on this real quick. So when you post a lot of it, so keep in mind that LinkedIn is the world's biggest search engine for recruiters, right? So they're actively searching by keywords all the time. On Google, everything is about stickiness. And what I mean by stickiness is the length of time that someone spends on your profile is a signal that it's a good profile. Okay. So LinkedIn signal. Now, an algorithm is built off of thousands and thousands of signals. Profile completeness might be one of them. Content creation might be another, right? But it's also stickiness. How long are people they're searching for you, but how long are they spending on your page? And what you want to do from a job seeker perspective is you want to create something super sticky. You want to show them on your featured section all the videos you've created, all the articles that you've created, all the posts. Doesn't matter if they've gotten likes or not. Just how do you write? How do you think? They're going to scan through that content, and eventually they're going to do is they're going to make a decision. They're going to go, I want to call this person or not. But by the time they call you, imagine the opportunity that you have in your fingertips. You have now reduced the amount of vetting in half. They're calling you because they already know you. They're calling you because they already like you, not because they think that you could be a good fit and they got to get to know you, right? That's a big differentiator there, right? So think about stickiness in your profile. Like, how long is somebody going to stay in your profile? Do you even have an about section written? So those are some of the strategic things here. But one of the things I want to ask Kristen is, Alejandri, this might be Alejandrina. If it is, what is up? Thank you so much for joining. How do you balance if you have a job and building a brand, making videos, etc.? Right? We're all super busy. We have kids. Some of us have kids, right? You have a bunny.
The bunny is the least of my challenges.
Right.
A plant, yes.
Joel has a plant. His life is much simpler than ours.
It is a balance. I think that's just it. It's, you make time for what's important to you. You know, I look at, you know, a lot of what I create, I find ways that it'll benefit my company also. So I've done LinkedIn learning sessions within my company. I've helped other people build their professional and personal brands within the company. So I find a balance in that way too. But again, you make time for what's important to you. And I know how important building a personal brand is. We all have personal stories. You know, I know John does specifically, but I moved to Florida with a position. I had a contract. That contract ended. I never expected it to end. And I found myself in Florida with the only person I knew was the CEO who hired me. I had no network and I needed to find a job. So I took to LinkedIn and I found opportunities by building my personal brand. I know the value of it. I will not have the rug ripped out from under me again without having that support built in. And so I think I just have a perspective on it, that it's important to me, that I will continue to build my personal brand and make sure that I can sustain my career and take care of my family.
Yeah. It's also a parachute, right? So it's your parachute.
It's insurance.
You got burned. You have an insurance policy, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah, so what do you think? I'm going to go to Bobby and Joel.
Well, I think the thing to keep in mind is that, you know, we all have to manage our time the best way we can. So, you know, for me, I'm a really busy person too, because I have 2 companies and I have the kids and it's crazy. And, you know, what I find for me is I'm really big on time management, and in particular what I call integration. I find ways to integrate my time. So for example, sometimes instead of making 1 video per day, I'll make 5-6 videos in one afternoon. I'll make 5 or 6 content posts in a couple hours, and that way it's easier to do that than do that one thing at a time. I find that it saves me a lot of time. The other thing I would say is that, you know, you can do well by, again, commenting on people's posts and just, you know, carving out that hour on a Friday or on a Saturday. Like, I know you're working and stuff, but like you can find time to carve versus watching Netflix binging. Like the truth is, there is time. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the fact that we have time that we can carve if we need to. We can carve a couple hours. It's just a question of making sure you're doing it and committing to it and being consistent.
And the shower thoughts, right? Didn't we say hashtag
shower thoughts? Right?
Yeah. That audio message while I'm driving in the car, I take notes all the time. Ideas up on my mind. So
yeah. Can I shoot audio in the shower to save as far as efficiency goes, right? Or will it get electrocuted?
I think the AirPods Pro are waterproof. And
are they?
If you pair it with an iPhone 11, I mean, let me know in the comments if it's not doable, but it could be.
Okay, I love that.
You might want to skip the video portion.
Just from like the neck up, all right, bro. Like, I don't need to see anything else.
Or that person could actually make content with his work colleagues. Just Get a couple of you together and just talk about something for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Together. That's awesome. And that's content. It's really easy to do that.
Yeah. I love just scaling conversations. Like people think podcasts, and it's like podcast is like a thing, right? You don't have to do a podcast. Just record your like quick 15-minute coffee chat that you're like a conversation that you'd have at a coffee shop and broadcast it, right? Like do that. That's simple. So Joel, what do you think about this? Like, you know, you're are you still in your 20s, bro? You look like you can't say. All right.
I am.
You are. Okay. So young guy, young man over here, young man. I'm getting old. How do you balance it, man?
Yeah, I think balance is a funny word because it's a personal, preference. But I'm in a really unique life stage where I, don't have as big of a family. I have a fair amount of more free time. And I think, again, it comes back to me, that love of learning and curiosity and just seeing LinkedIn as a tool versus, a presence and PR to build. I think for me, it's, what goals am I working on this year? What ideas am I looking into? And how can LinkedIn really be a tool to speed up those things? And so for me, I think balance then falls into place after you see it as a tool versus in kind of a be all end all. And again, I think Bobby mentioned this, but that carving piece, if it's something you love, if it's something you're wanting to learn and it aligns with your goals and values, you will find a way to fit it in. And you just need that kind of light bulb aha moment, just like Kristen mentioned around, that personal experience when it hits you with that wow moment of how can I not be investing a little time and energy each week into this? And I think the earlier you start, whether in your 20s or whether you have kids, is the best time to start. So that's probably my take.
I love how you said that, LinkedIn's a tool. And just like many of these social media platforms, they're all tools. Your personal brand is life. But LinkedIn's a tool to, build up that strong personal brand, that strong thought leadership brand, that strong legacy, right? So I really hope people take the time to invest in building up that brand because your brand is beyond LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a huge tool to enhance it, but your personal brand goes across everything you do.
Yeah, and I think you really should never attach your personal brand to a company, right? To a logo, to a company, to anything like that, right? It is you, standalone you, outside of any organization that you work for, right? It's your
build a brand of you first.
Yeah.
Although if it does align really well, by all means, you can integrate them.
Well, you can integrate them.
You should definitely build your brand first. People often say, should I have my company name? Should I have my name? I said, no, go with your name because your name is forever. Your company name may not last forever.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Kristen, is there an advantage to posting different content on different social media platforms? For example, personal content on Twitter versus business content on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not sure, Kristen, if you have presence in other arenas, but do you?
I have a sad presence, but yes.
Sad presence. Okay, all right.
I think, Bobby, you and I have talked about this before. Once we saw LinkedIn was really the place we kind of shifted focus from something, although Bobby has a huge following, I shouldn't be talking to him about it. But yes, I do post different content because they're different platforms. So, Instagram is a photo platform. It cares about imagery and visuals. But when it comes to, we talked about that I don't have a strategy, but I would say I do have an overarching strategy, and it's what I'm passionate about sharing. And you'll find that across all of my platforms. So who I am outside of work is the same person I am inside of work. My authenticity shines through all of that content. It's a woman in business, it's a marketer, it's someone passionate about personal branding and human connection and personal connection. And so all of these things are infused into all of the content that I share on all of my channels.
I love that. It's not just one thing, right? It's not just one topic, and that's a myth. That we have to be totally focused on just one vein, and you're not doing that, and you've been successful with it, right? There are a lot of elements of you,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I think, I've heard from some people that they don't feel comfortable sharing certain things. You share what you feel comfortable with,
Yeah, absolutely.
but it's about being who you are and true to that. So, I think that's what supports creating content generally. And yes, I'm on all of the platforms, but LinkedIn is my love.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, I do the YouTube thing, right? YouTube's a totally different strategy. YouTube is more long form content, right? 5, 6, 10+ minute videos, key takeaways, right? Some graphics involved and things like that. Whereas a 6-minute video on LinkedIn would never fly. Most of the time. Most people posting a 6-minute video will never fly. You might as well just transcribe that as text, post it, and you're gonna get a lot more engagement. Now, there's a handful of individuals that have figured out a way to do it, right? So it's not prescriptive. What I'm saying is not the end all be all. If you love video and all your videos are 5 minutes and they're hilarious or there's some quirky thing about it, awesome, do that, right? What's to say that I'm right or wrong, right? It's a test and learn for you.
And,
That's
one
so
thing
true, John. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some people, like, for example, Emily, she is very young, I think like 18. I don't know if you remember her, and I'm trying to remember her last name, but she was creating content videos on there of her exercising every day,
Hey.
doing push-ups, and she's built a mass following and
Yeah.
huge connections with people. So
Yeah.
it's about being authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
Post what you want.
One thing I wanted to add was that, I have different content for each platform, but when I first started out, I was doing something every day, 7 days a week. I was doing a daily video. Oh, shoot.
I'm sorry, Bobby. I don't know what's going on with this thing, man. DisappearingBobby.com.
For Pete's sake, man.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry, bro.
All right. Can I continue? That's what I was
Keep
saying.
going.
That back in the day when I was doing a daily video every day, like 7 days a week, it was exhausting. So I integrated my content. So I would basically take a video on LinkedIn, 1 minute only, upload it to LinkedIn. Then I would take the same video, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. But with each of them, there'd be a different message and different hashtags. And that's kind of how I integrated my content a little bit more efficiently, but I couldn't even keep up with the daily video, so I scaled back that. But now I have, each one is still quite different.
So, Joel, this question has been asked a few times. I want to make sure that I address this one. How do you gain and build legitimacy in your personal brand if it has nothing to do with your career and your certifications? Well, what if your passion lies somewhere else? What do you say? What do you say to that?
Great question. Might be a longer chat, so feel free to send me a message. But Cole's notes, I think, would be understanding that I think legitimacy can be built again by showing up, by being part of the dialogue, and by curating or sharing your opinion or story versus being qualified to be on the stage to have a microphone. I think, in shorter words, legitimacy can be built by
Stop using Wi-Fi. Sorry.
Stop using the damn Wi-Fi, kids.
You gotta get
my wife.
your Wi-Fi provider.
I love it, bro. That's awesome. No, that's a really good point, Joel. Bobby, this is interesting. Like, you have been on brand for a long time, right? You've had that strategy of building your brand. You really know that authenticity for yourself. You stick with those veins. But what do you say to somebody who's struggling with this type of scenario? And they're like, man, I'm in project management, but I really want to be talking about gardening. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
Project manage the hell out of your plants? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm someone who has had 4 different careers. And because during those times I felt lost in my first job, I felt stuck in my second one, I felt unfulfilled in my third one. And so it's important to really focus on what fulfills you. That is I think that's the ultimate goal you want to have. You want to have fulfillment, joy, happiness, all that kind of stuff, or meaning, as you said before, John. So, do you really want to stick in this job for 10, 15 years? I mean, if you realize you're not aligned, You need to do everything you can to start transitioning to that next phase, whether it's starting a side hustle, whether it's talking to people, start creating content. Because here's the thing: if you're like I was a mechanical engineer, my first job, right? But let's say I love
Seems misaligned, Bobby.
Yeah, but but let's say I want to do brand marketing. The first thing I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start creating content around brand marketing. Why I love brand marketing so much. And pretty soon they're like, Bobby, why don't you talk about brand marketing? And I love your blogs. Next thing you know, a recruiter or someone's coming after me saying, listen, I love what you talk about. Let's have a conversation. And again, so I think you have to slowly transition and have that exit strategy as you move along. And ultimately, what you can do is by the time you get to stuff, and this brings another question, which is, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I also passionate about yoga. The truth is, that's where your story comes into play, which is so awesome, because you create a brand story around who you are, that you did all these things. So when I see Bobby Umar is former engineer, former in the performing arts, brand marketing, and teaching, and now he does this. That story is compelling people because they get the story of the lost leader trying to find his way into that personal brand. So you can create a story and a brand around anything.
I love that, man. I love that you brought that up. That's so important to look at it through that lens. What do you think about that, Kristen?
I think some of the most compelling content that I've read and people that I follow are ones that have that juxtaposition in their story. So, for example, I'm trying to think, it was like a helicopter pilot, Navy SEAL, who shared a lot of his content and talked about how that applied to what he was doing now, what he learned as being a Navy SEAL, and how that applied to his current job. Anyway, I love that kind of juxtaposition. I think it creates, it's your story, first of all. So if there's a way that you can interweave those two ideas and that be part of your story, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's interesting. Like, I work for an organization that is all about selling goods, right? But yet I talk so much about minimalism. And I talk so much about trying to live simply and not caring about material things and riding my bicycle all over the place that I don't have a car, right? And people find that juxtaposition really interesting, right? So, but that's just part of me, right? There's nothing wrong with me working for an organization. I'm working on some amazing, cool stuff, but yet I have some beliefs about certain things that are, that are different, that are on the side. And I think it's important to share those things. That makes the story. So
that's your cool factor, John.
That's my cool. It's my cool factor. It's my cool factor. All right. So everyone, I want you to know that if you want to create a post about us, you can totally take a screenshot of this event too. We can smile for you, and you take a screenshot of the event, post what you learned. There's one key takeaway, and everybody, I want to do it too. I want to take a photo of it. All right, everybody smile. All right. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll touch on a strategy, a key takeaway strategy. Every time Bobby leaves, I keep thinking of Will Ferrell. Ma, the meatloaf! Ma, the meatloaf! Yelling at his kids. It's awesome. But what do you guys think as far as the strategy goes? Like, if you're just getting started, right, you have no engagement. What is something that you can deploy, Kristen, that you've learned along your journey? Right? Whether it be hashtags, whether it be structure of a post, something that can help somebody create better content.
I have so many, but I'm going to give you one that I love that is so underutilized, but John uses it. I think Bobby uses it.
I don't know what I use. You got to tell me.
Voice messaging.
Oh, I do it all the time. I love this shit.
Done.
Love it.
Yeah. If I can count on one hand how many times I've gotten a voice message from someone. So that's how powerful it is. I get sales DMs and invitations on every platform daily, probably 5 to 10 times a day. Most of them are cold, and the voice messages stand out. So if you are in consulting, sales, actually, I got a question from someone. If you don't mind, real quick, I'm going to read it. It says, I'm posting a lot of content on LinkedIn, growing a personal brand and voice, but I'm not getting direct messages or interest in my services. And I want to use DMs to connect with people, but I don't want to be like all of the annoying cold call DMs I receive. So voice messaging, I think, is one tactic. Video messaging also is another tactic, but I think it's about really connecting. Don't do the cold DMs, please. Warm. So go to their profile, look at what they posted last, make a connection, post on their content maybe a few times, but care, right? I mean, you hear that. You have to care about the person, not just a business. It's not just a business opportunity. And if you don't care enough to build a connection, it's not going to happen for you.
Yeah, that's really
so voice messaging. I want to get voice messages from everyone, please. I love them.
I love the voice messages, guys. I love Ma, the meatloaf. I love the voice messages. They're great. I use them all the time with people. Today, I was just engaging with somebody like for a few minutes. It's like, it's so meaningful to the other individual that you took the time to do it. Joel, what do you think about this topic? What's a strategy?
Yeah, I was gonna also add, if there's a thank you or like something you've received, I actually love going past the voice and doing a video selfie. I think I sent 2 yesterday, none today, but even if it was, you connected with John and he said something inspiring, like just send him a 20-second video just to say, thanks for planning the webinar. You knocked it out of the park, and have a great week. And I think that video, I can count again on my hand, less than 5 people. If you know the person or you want to make a point, I think that can be a neat thing as well.
I love that, man. I love that. What do you think, Bobby?
What was the original question again?
Yeah. Sorry, we're going back and forth. But like, what's a strategy? You've been posting content for a long time. You've been in this arena. What would you say that somebody starts with?
Man, there's so many different things.
Is it like structure? Is it hashtags? Is it, like, what can they do?
I mean, God, there's so many different things you can talk about.
I know, man. I know.
What I'll say is,
I just got one.
I'll use an example of my wife's first and only post on LinkedIn.
Oh, and only.
First and only. I tried to convince. It took me 6 months to convince her to do one post.
I remember that post.
And then she still has no one since. And but it took off like 3 million views after I posted. But the biggest thing was beyond just the vulnerable hero's journey. The first 2 lines. The first 2 lines of whatever you talk about or whatever you post about is what they see on the mobile phone. It's what they see when they scroll. It's what they'll say, click see more. And those first 2 lines have to be so compelling to get their attention. And that's exactly what she did to get people's attention. And the rest is history from her post. It went super viral. So if that's one thing I would say, when you create content, that first 2 lines is really the most meaningful thing that you're going to be able to say to people. Make sure it really counts.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a post with no likes and no engagement is not a reflection of the quality of writing that you have. It is literally an algorithmic timing thing. It's a density of likes within the first hour and comments. There's so many factors. You post during a time that a lot of people are not online and it dies. And another day, if you were to post that same content, for example, on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, it could go viral. You never know. It's not the quality of your post. So don't take it to heart. A lot of posts, like some people have said in the comments, like, well, what do I do? What if a post died? Can I repost? It's like, like let it be. Maybe create a different version of it. Yeah. Don't try to repost the exact same thing. But you play in the pool, and eventually over time you start to feel the algorithm. I know it sounds weird. But like you feel it. You kind of understand the cadence of things. I know, for example, that when I post it Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and I create something that's compelling, I know it's going to fly because it's the entire week that it's baking into the LinkedIn algorithm. Sometimes I post something on a Wednesday, dead. Fridays, terrible usually.
Friday's dead, yeah.
Dead, right? But you know what? The other week, I posted something on a Friday. It took off. Never happened before ever, right? So you never know what's going to happen, and that's the beauty of it, right? So don't just key takeaway is don't make it a reflection of you or the quality of what you're putting out there. It's just algorithmic, some things pick up, some things don't, And another thing too, do you guys use hashtags?
Yes.
Yeah? Are you a hashtag user, Kristen? Now,
Yeah.
Bobby, are you using, how many hashtags are you using?
3. So Power of Connection is my hashtag that I use for my broadcast.
Love that.
Personal branding, of course. And then I mix up the third one depending on the content, but usually the common ones are motivation or entrepreneurship or career management.
Yeah. What about you, Kristen?
I recommend that everyone do at least one unique one to them because it's impossible to find your content otherwise. It gets buried in your feed and then you can't go back and find it. And so you can always tell people, search this hashtag and they can find your content or things about you. So I use Modern Marketer for that. But I use usually 3 to 4 marketing. It depends. I'll add in one that I feel like is relevant to the content at the time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm using 3 hashtags. I've had other people say that, and by the way, there will be a recording, everyone. But we're going to send it out after the event. But I've had people that say, don't use hashtags. Don't use them at all. Because what LinkedIn is trying to do from an algorithm standpoint is they're trying to funnel your content. Is it relevant to the audience that you're saying is relevant to? Yes or no? If yes, continue to boost. If no, don't boost. But I'm narrowing the focus. However, if I don't put any hashtags, some people say it's going to bake to everybody. It has the most chance of being viral. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I like to use the hashtags. I've done both, non-hashtags and hashtags. And honestly, I just stick with them because it works and I use 3 of them. So it seems like we're all kind of using a similar type strategy. Joel, you're using 3?
Yeah, pretty similar to you, John. I kind of like to test with and without. In university, Student Voices was a great hashtag to kind of figure out, what thoughts were around education and graduation, things like that. And then marketing and technology have been some great ones for me just to see, what's trending, what's important to look at. Yeah. But I think I try not to use over, 3 or 4, kind of keep it simple.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, guys. Go ahead.
Quick question. Playing into that, the whole trending thing, I wonder if that helps to funnel the content too, because
it does. Yeah, I think it does. And I think the whole LinkedIn top voice scenario is all algorithmic around hashtags that you focus on being a thought leader in. Right. So if you're trying to go after, if you're trying to go after that, right? Like I gave a lot of career tips and I always put hashtag careers, right? And so I think that plays into how they find you for the LinkedIn top voice. All these little strategies we figure out along the way, guys. I think that's the fun part about it. All right.
What's your biggest strategy takeaway? You didn't give one.
Oh, I didn't give one. No, I'm with Bobby. First 2 lines matter a lot. Got to create that hook for the reader. Right. That's every author's key takeaway. What's the hook? How do you get somebody captivated in a movie, trailer or a book intro and keep them reading? That's right. So I think that's really important. And the hashtag thing. But yeah, those are the tips. All right. So I'm going to do this. We're going to close this out. Remember to post one key takeaway about the event or multiple. Some people like writing novels, and that's awesome. I love seeing a summarized version of this in text form. That's always fun because sometimes we say things and, the way people perceive it is very interesting, like what their core takeaways were. So that's really fascinating. But I'm going to do 2 things here. I'm going to go around the room and I'm going to have you answer this question quickly from Randy White. And then after you answer that question, I want to have you give one closing statement. Okay. So Randy White, how much time do you spend doing your technical work? Here, let's put it this way. I'll just phrase it to how much time do you spend on social media per week? Let's put it that way. Per week. Bobby, you first, and then a closing argument or a closing statement that you want somebody to take away.
Well, I think that I've gone less now because of COVID. I think that's definitely affected the thing the way I am now. It's much less now. It's probably about 6 to 8 hours a week. But during the heyday of my work as a speaker, influencer, and coach, it was probably around 15 to 16 hours a week. But that's because part of it's my job. Part of my job as a speaker and a content provider is to create content. So I'm certainly doing more of it, but that's kind of where I was. In terms of my final thought, I mean, the general thing with personal branding is that it is up to you to use personal branding and to own your life and to fight for the life that you want and build the life that you want and build that impact. And what I found over the years is that personal branding gives you 3 key things. Number 1, it gives you more focus, so more clarity, purpose, and direction. Number 2, it gives you more alignment, so more meaning, more fulfillment, more passions and values activation. And if you have more focus and you have more alignment, the third thing you get is what's called impact. So more success, results, achievement, and ultimately what you want to build with your personal brand, your thought leadership brand, is your story and your legacy. So start now, keep progressing, don't worry about perfection, and you'll get there.
I love that, man. That's really succinct. All right, Joel, you're up. Question is, how much time do you spend per week on social media? And what is your closing statement?
Great question.
Putting you on the spot.
I think for me, I would say 1 to 2 hours a day, with the exception Sunday, I have a new goal of trying to take it off. Maybe I'll tune in around 8 p.m. for 10 minutes if there's anything bad, but keeping that one day off has been important for me just to unplug. And then the second one was kind of what's my final call to action. Yeah, my call to action would have to be, life isn't a textbook or formula application. If you're a student or if you're in one role, and so as a result, use this as a creativity tool to see what can happen. And then the second one would have to be, as long as you are respectful and thoughtful, you can send any message you want, and it can be mind-boggling to hear what comes back out of that, as long as you are respectful and thoughtful. And I think that's kind of my final encouragement is get creative, be respectful, and see what ideas can come from it, because you never know who's going to respond, and you never know how it can change the trajectory of your life. So there you go.
I love that. These are rock stars over here. All right, Kristen, what you got? So first one, how much time do you spend on social media per week?
I'm in marketing, so I spend an obscene amount of time on social media for my job. For personal branding specifically, probably 2 to 3 hours, I would say, a week. I like to get up early and spend like 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes on a post. That's kind of my thing. And then weekends, I might think about a video or think about something more substantial. But again, I'm on social media way more than I should be because I need to be. And I need to be able to tell people, the audiences that I serve through work, what's working, what's not. So I need to be paying attention to all channels all the time. As far as personal brand, I look at a brand as simply a perception in the mind of a consumer, of a customer, of a prospect. So you have the ability and the power to influence that perception. And you will, for a future boss, a future employer, a future employee, even as a leader. And so I think everyone should embrace that and influence their personal brand.
That's awesome.
And I just want to say, I don't know if the audience that's here with us, thank you, knows this, but all of us met on LinkedIn. I don't think any of us have met in person. And I feel like such a connection to all of you. And so this is the power of that community is, you know, we have that personal connection just through creating content and building that community amongst each other.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm so glad you brought that up because that's the power of this, really. That's what it winds up coming down to. Friendships that you meet and that you create. That's what's so special about it. You know, I'll leave you with this. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is that there's a lot of people out there who have really big dreams to achieve something. And sometimes it feels kind of scary to think about or verbalize whatever those dreams that you have are, even if especially if they're divergent from your current career path and they're not aligned with maybe where your family wants you to go, or things like that. But as soon as you think about a dream that you have that you want to pursue and a self-limiting belief winds up popping into your head of why you can't do it, I want you to replace that self-limiting belief with the statement, why not try? Okay? Because I just want everybody to know that really that's all it is. It's just believing that, you know what? I'm going to try this thing, right? There's no harm. There's no problem. I'm just going to give it a shot and see what happens. All right? So that's what I want for everybody here. Thank you all so much. I'd love for you to post
All right, Oliver.
Is Oliver
Sorry.
the bunny?
Yeah.
Is that your bunny? Bring your bunny in.
Yeah, he's going to make a little appearance.
Yeah, come on. But remember to post about what you learned in the show. We'll show you some love in the comments. And there is all.
Oh my God.
I literally love that you brought this is Oliver. Okay,
Yep, Oliver.
now it's time to take a photo. So if you're on
everyone gets their camera.
Oliver, put Oliver on there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is a better photo. Just our faces is not nearly as good. Oliver, how old is Oliver? How old is Oliver?
He was over it.
He's over it. Yeah. How old is Oliver?
Just 2 this week.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Well, that leaves us with a great close. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
All right.